You know those things from your childhood that you completely forget about for years, and then one day, they randomly appear in your life again? That basically happened to me with Bratz. A few weeks ago, I started looking at the old Bratz games again, and before I knew it, I was watching old adverts, looking at the dolls, remembering the movies, and I somehow end up buying a steel copy of Bratz Rock Angelz on the PS2. Before we start though, yeah, apparently Bratz had a lot of a stronger hold on my childhood than I remember. Anyway, let's just get into it. Let's get back to 2001. What were Bratz? Bratz first launched in 2001 through MGA Entertainment. The original slogan was, "The girls with a passion for fashion." And honestly, that tells you pretty much everything you need to know about the brand, because Bratz wasn't trying to be subtle. Fashion was the whole point. Now, even though I didn't grow up in the early 2000s, which is a shame, Bratz is still one of those brands that sticks around in culture. Because even if you didn't own the dolls, you probably still saw them somewhere, on game covers, in shops, in advertisements, or in movies. It's one of those franchises that keeps just appearing. When Bratz first launched, it looked completely different to anything else on the shelves. At the time, the doll market was mainly dominated by Barbie, and Barbie was basically the standard everyone recognised. She'd been around for decades, and she was the most popular doll on the market at the time. And then suddenly Bratz showed up. There were these dolls with these oversized heads, huge eyes, glossy lips, bold makeup, platform shoes, and very fashion-heavy outfits. Whether people loved them or hated them, they were definitely noticed. And that's exactly what Bratz wanted, because standing out was the entire point. There were 4 original girls: Yasmin, Chloe, Jade, and Sasha. But what made Bratz different wasn't just how they looked. It was that each girl actually had their personality, their own style, their own energy, and even their own nickname. So people just didn't pick a doll, they picked a character who they can almost rely to, who they can almost be like that character. A lot of people basically aimed a character at who they felt like was them in the franchise. And that is one of the main reasons as to why Bratz became so iconic, the girls. So the first one we're going to go into is Yasmin, aka Pretty Princess. Yasmin's often seen as the calmest member in the group. She's creative, thoughtful, and a bit more relaxed compared to the others. Her fashion style leans towards more softer colours, earthier tones, and more chiller outfits compared to the other girls. Kind of gives that vibe of, I'm just gonna go with the flow today. She's a kind of character who feels grounded. If Bratz girls are real people, Yasmin would be the one suggesting a chill day where everyone else is arguing over plans. Even though she's not the loudest in the group, she's the one who's the most relatable. Chloe, aka Angel. Chloe is the outgoing one, the confident one, the bubbly one of the group. She has that classic early 2000s pop energy, bright, fashionable, and very main character coded. She's one of the most recognisable characters of the Bratz overall. Everything about her feels confident. And honestly, her nickname, Angel, it fits her perfectly. She gives that polished but fun personality that stands out instantly. She skateboards, she hangs out with the boys, she's just very loud, and a lot of people related to her. Okay, then we've got Jade, aka Cool Cat, aka my favourite Bratz character of all time. Jade is the fashion-forward one. She experiments with style more than anyone else in the group. She's bold, creative, and always pushing different looks. If Jade looked at something unusual or ahead of its time, Jade would probably wear it first. Her nickname Cool Cat generally does feel like a character who sets trends instead of following them. When I first watched Bratz as a kid, Jade generally was a type of character that I just would be like, I want to be her when I'm older. She just didn't care for anyone. She may feel down at times, but she was like, I'm going to wear this style and I'm going to set trends for people. She would be today, if she posted a video on TikTok with this new outfit, everyone would be running to buy it. She's generally that girl. And then you've got Sasha, aka Bunny Boo. She's the confident, outspoken, and very ambitious one of the group. She often comes across as the strongest personality. She leads, she organises, and she doesn't really back down. She's probably the most assertive one of the 4. If something needs to get done, Sasha will be doing it. If something is said, Sasha is probably the one to say it. And yet again, these 4 girls prove in the whole franchise that it's not just about the dolls, it's about the way the characters are shown throughout the movies, the TV shows, and the dolls, but mainly the TV show. So why did Bratz become so popular? Bratz became huge because it arrived exactly at the right time. The early 2000s were about bold fashions. Bright colours, glitter, low-rise jeans, big accessories, strong personality. The Bratz matched that perfectly. They felt modern. They felt expressive, and most importantly, they felt different. Before long, Bratz wasn't just a doll line anymore, it had a full franchise. And that's where things started to get really interesting, because once Bratz expanded beyond dolls, it became an entire universe. And that universe is what led into TV shows, movies, and eventually the PS2 games, which is what we're going to go on to next. The Bratz TV show launched in 2005. It basically took everything about the dolls and turned it into an ongoing story. It followed Yasmin, Chloe, Jade, and Sasha through school life, friendships, fashion challenges, and everyday drama. But it was never trying to be realistic. It leaned heavily into personality, style, and exaggerated storytelling. Each episode usually revolved around something quite simple on the surface: a friendship issue, a competition, a fashion event, a misunderstanding, or some kind of school drama. Or Your Thing magazine. But the way it was presented made it feel very Bratz, very expressive, very 2000s energy. And one of the biggest things the show did very well was keep the characters consistent. Yasmin stayed calm and thoughtful, Chloe stayed outgoing and bubbly, Jade stayed fashion obsessed and experimental, and then your girl Sasha stayed confident and outspoken. That consistency is important because it's a part of why people got attached to them in the first place. Even if you didn't watch every episode, you still understood what each character was about straight away. They were just clearly defined. As for the first TV show, Bratz expanded into films. This is where the franchise really started to try and build full storylines. The most well-known movie is the movie from Bratz 2007. The film followed the girl straight starting high school, dealing with social groups, popularity and identity. It was very much a classic teen movie structure: new school, new friendships, and a lot of fashion moments. But what is interesting is how they tried to balance this all out with friendship. Each girl still had their own identity, but was also tied together as a group. And that group dynamic is something that runs along everything Bratz does. Because Bratz was never just about one main character, it was about the four of them. There was also spin-off movies like Bratz Babies, Bratz Kids, and Bratz Fashion Pixies. Bratz Fashion Pixies is my favourite Bratz movie in the whole entire franchise. That movie generally was like ahead of its time. Each one basically reimagined the same characters in different styles or universes. Sometimes younger versions, sometimes fantasy versions, sometimes completely different aesthetics. And that actually says a lot about the brand, because Bratz wasn't locked into one story. It was flexible. It could be anything: a school story, a fashion story, a fantasy story, and even a music-based story. And that flexibility is one of the reasons why the games ended up being so varied later on. Bratz as a cultured moment. By the mid-2000s, Bratz wasn't just a toy brand anymore. It has become a part of everyday culture. You could find Bratz everywhere: magazines, school stationery, clothing collaborations, posters, adverts on TV, shop displays, and even fast food toys. For a while, it generally felt unavoidable. And that's the most important context for the games. Because when a brand is that visible, and the games aren't just extra content, they become a part of the main identity. Why the brand expansion mattered. By this point, Bratz had iconic characters, a TV show, multiple movies, huge merchandise lines, consistent marketing presence, and a strong visual identity, and songs. So when the PS2 games started releasing, they weren't building something from scratch. They were stepping into an already fully formed world. And that's why they feel different from a lot of licensed games, because you didn't need a tutorial for these characters. You already hopped in the game and you already knew each character like they were your own friend. Why does this matter for the games? And this is a key point going into the PS2 section. The Bratz games didn't need to explain the world. They just dropped you into it. You already knew who Yasmin was, who Chloe was, who Jade was, who Sasha was. You already understood the fashion, the attitude, the vibe. So the games could focus on something else entirely: experience, style, atmosphere, and that's why people remember them so strongly today. Because they weren't just fit games, they were expansions of a world people are already connected with. And that leads us directly into the PS2 games. Because this is where Bratz stopped being something you should watch and something you should actually step inside. What made the Bratz game so different? Before going into game, it's important to understand what these games are trying to do. Because they weren't built for modern games. There's no massive open world, no complex combat system, no online features. Instead, they were built around a very specific feature. You are living in a Bratz world. That means fashion first, exploration second, mini-games and missions, story-like vibe, heavy gameplay, and consistent focus on style and personality. And honestly, that's why they were remembered so strongly. Because they weren't trying to be realistic, they were trying to feel like Bratz. The first game that was released was Bratz Rock Angelz in 2005. This is the game that people most remember, and for a good reason. Bratz Rock Angelz is easily the most iconic PS2 Bratz game. In this game, the girls start their own fashion magazine and build up to it through missions, exploration, and challenges. You travel through different locations, completing tasks, unlocking outfits, and taking photos, and slowly build the Bratz magazine to something bigger. And I unfortunately can't play this game right now because mine's sealed, but I will get my hands on a Bratz Rock Angelz. What makes Bratz Rock Angelz stand out is the main structure it feels compared to the earlier games. It has clear progression, more detailed environments, stronger mission designs, more focus on storytelling, and a bit more complete world. At the same time, it still has that early 2000s game feeling. The controls are simple, the movement is slightly clunky, the camera can be unpredictable, and some missions feel repetitive, but none of that mattered at the time because it wasn't appeal. Because appeal wasn't perfection, it was immersion. You felt like you were inside Bratz. And that is why this game is the most wanted to be remastered, because it has everything: nostalgia, strong identity brand, iconic characters, and a clear concept. But it also raises a bigger question. Will fixing it remove what made it special? Bratz Forever Diamondz, 2006. After Bratz Rock Angelz, the series moved into Forever Diamondz. The game focuses more on travel, fashion challenges, and competitions. You go to different locations, completing styling tasks. It feels less like a story-driven game and more like a fashion adventure. There's more freedom here, but less structure, which makes it slightly more open but less focused than Rock Angelz. Still has the core Bratz identity in there, fashion first. The next game is Bratz the Movie, 2007. This game follows the storyline of Bratz the Movie, so instead of being open-ended, it's more linear. You play through scenes from the film, complete set missions, and follow the movie story directly. It feels more structured, almost like you're playing through a scripted experience. Compared to Rock Angelz, it's less about exploration and more about progression. It keeps the fashion and the character focus at the centre. Girlz Really Rock, 2008. This is where the series started to shift again. Girlz Really Rock focuses heavily on music and performance. Instead of the young fashion exploration, you get rhythm-styled mini-games and stage performances, which is interesting, because it shows how Bratz games are experimenting with identity. They weren't sticking to its formula, they were trying different versions of the same idea. What does it feel like to be Bratz? If you're playing these games now, the first thing you'd notice is how different they feel to compare to modern games. Not worse, just different. The graphics are simple. Choppy, yeah, but you gotta think of the time. The pacing is slow, the controls are a bit clunky, and the missions can feel repetitive, but despite all that, they have something modern games often struggle with: personality, atmosphere, identity. Because when you play them now, you're not playing a game, you're stepping back into a very specific era of design, fashion and culture, and that's why people still talk about them. People still play them to get a reminder of their childhood. They still feel like that 7-year-old girl playing that Bratz game. Cough cough me. The real question. So now we've seen how Bratz started, how the brand expanded, and how the world was built, and how the games actually were played. We're left with one final question, because nostalgia alone isn't enough, and popularity alone doesn't guarantee a comeback. So the real question is, should the Bratz games actually be remastered, or should they stay exactly where they were? And that's what we're going to be going into next. Because look at the new Bratz games. They've kind of flopped compared what the older games did. And that kind of breaks my heart a bit. Should the Bratz games be remastered? So now we get onto the real question this whole video has been building towards. Should the Bratz games be remastered? Because on paper, it sounds like an obvious yes. We've seen so many PS2 era games come back. Crash Bandicoot got a remaster, Spyro got remastered, even games that people didn't expect to return have had a full modern version made. Even Bully, that's another game I will delve into on another video, that even got put onto the PS4 and PS5. So Bratz should fit right into that, right? Well, it's not that simple. Why should they be remastered? Let's start with the obvious. First, nostalgia. There are a huge audience now that grew up in the early 2000s, with the games and the dolls and the media, and Bratz is still instantly recognisable. Even if you don't actively think about them anymore, the name alone brings back a very specific era. Fashion, music, colour, personality, the early 2000s, and that alone is powerful. The second reason is that the concept actually still works. Fashion-focused game with character-driven gameplay, style and outfit system, mini-games, exploration, and light story missions. That absolutely still has a place today. In fact, games like that are actually more popular now than they've been in years. For example, Sims. People love customization, people love aesthetics, people love character-driven world. So in theory, they love games that they can control. So in theory, Bratz fit perfectly into modern gaming trends. The third reason is audience expansion. A remaster won't just be for people who remember it, it would be to introduce Bratz into a completely new generation. People who never played the original experience could experience fashion, the characters, and the world in a modern format, and that could generally revive interest in the franchise. But there is also the downsides. Why shouldn't they be remastered? Because remasters sound simple. They can easily go wrong. And the biggest risk is that Bratz is losing what they made special. The original games weren't perfect. They were a bit clunky, very simple, slow compared to modern games, sometimes repetitive, and that's almost part of their identity. They still feel like early 2000s games. not modern ones trying to copy that style. That different matters more than people already think. And another issue is over-modernising, because if you change too much, the visuals just become too polished. The personalities might get changed. The vibe low-key just becomes too different. The simplicity disappears, and suddenly it doesn't feel like Bratz anymore. It just generally feels like a generic fashion game with old branding. And that's the biggest risk. Not that it would be bad, but it would just lose its identity, and they would probably lose a lot of profit. So the question isn't really, should the Bratz games be remastered? The real question is, can they remaster them without losing what they made memorable in the first place? Because nostalgia is a tricky thing. People just don't remember how the games look. They remember how they felt. They remember the feeling of hopping into that game as a kid. They remember the feeling of dressing up their Bratz dolls in game, ice skating around the mall, and that feeling is very hard to recreate. So personally, I think, yes, Bratz games could work as remasters, but only if they handled carefully. They shouldn't be turned into something completely new. They shouldn't be overly modernised. They should definitely not lose the original charm. If anything, the best version of remaster would be slightly improved graphics, smoother controls, updated camera systems, but the same fashion focused, the same characters, and the same early 2000s identity. Because that's what people actually want back. Not a new version of Bratz. Not these new games that Bratz make. But the same world, just cleaned up a little. People also want the PS2 Bratz games to be put on the PS4 and PS5 store, like they are with Bully and all these other games that have been remastered and put onto the store. So yeah, Bratz isn't just dolls, it's not just a TV show, it's not just a game series, it's a full universe that defines a very specific era of style, fashion and personality. And the PS2 games were a huge part of that. They weren't perfect, but they were memorable, and that's something that matters more. So what do you think? Should Bratz games be remastered? Or should they stay exactly as they were? A time capsule of the early 2000s? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.